like super great and close because people had different opinions about the rules. So we just didn't know what to do with each other. So we kind of kept our distance. I kind of just feel shocked and confused and like she doesn't care. I don't know what the right word is. It kind of just broke my heart a little. I grew up with her. Grew up with all of them. Sorry. Can we cut? I don't want to cry.
Hey friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Thursday, July 18th, 2024. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. All right, I did a video a couple days ago about Brianna Brown, and we've been covering sort of what is going on with Aurora and Brianna on their Pinterest boards and why there is some cause and pause for concern. And I noticed that Aurora recently just posted, and a couple days ago I was sharing about how Brianna is posting about parenting and having children, and it all is marked as to learn. And we were like discussing, is she pregnant, or is she looking at what she needs to learn as a parent, or is she sending messages to her mom and her stepdad or her adopted father, Kody? And the more that I'm diving into these Pinterest boards, and I realize it's Pinterest, right? So I know that anyone can post anything. But when I'm looking at their patterns and I'm noticing that the majority of what they are posting is that they're feeling upset or overwhelmed or having anxiety or depression, feeling like the world is against them, understanding that they are in an incredibly oppressive home life with Robyn and Kody both having isolated them from everyone, and knowing that when they were children, they were stripped from their father, their biological father, under the false premise that he was abusive towards Robyn and towards them. Now, no marriage is perfect, but it's when you look at the history of what these kids went through and how a storyline was created by the parents to make the other parent look terrible and make that parent look like they're doing something they're not. The only input that they're hearing is that their dad hates them and doesn't want to be a father and was hurt their mom. They become brainwashed. And this is what the ex-husband, Preston, and their biological father, his family, and people that know him have told me, that the girls are brainwashed, the kids are brainwashed, and that they don't know the truth about what happened. And the truth was he was railroaded into an adoption he didn't want, and they had held over medical debt that was related to an accident that Dayton had while he was riding an ATV under the care and watch of Kody Brown. And Robyn and Kody concealed the accident and would not allow Preston to know the details about what happened to Dayton. And then Kody, instead of being the responsible one and managing the cost of that accident that his negligence caused, weaponized the debt against the father, and then basically strangled, like manipulated him and strongholded him into, we'll surrender the debt if you give up the kids. It's unethical, it's manipulative, it's maniacal. And the promise for the kids was that they were going to be given this perfect family, that Kody was going to love them unconditionally, that they would be welcomed into this group. And Aurora was desperate to have connection to that family. The kids were young when they came into the family, by the way. I mean, Aurora was 7 and Brianna was 5. And I think Dayton was 9 or 10. They had spent some part of their childhood with two parents, and they had spent a part of their childhood with their family in Montana. But once she joined the Brown family, that all ended. And when kids lose family connections, it's concerning, obviously. And then as the disconnect continued to happen in the family with the Browns, Kody basically said in the tell-all that because he wasn't getting along with his adult children, and because he didn't want his adult children to separate him from Robyn, he was going to make sure that those kids and Robyn would never go anywhere without him, and that they wouldn't feel welcome anywhere where he wasn't. Basically making it seem like those kids hated them and were going to try to poison the Aurora, Brianna, and Dayton against him, and he wanted to prevent that. It's tactical of a narcissist to triangulate, right? So he's pitting the two groups of kids against each other. So they were promised this family and they never got it. And then that family dynamic was really weaponized against them by Robyn. When things started to fall apart, she would say things like, they don't want to see us, they don't want to be near us. And she would put the issues that people had with her onto her kids. So because people had problems with Robyn, then Robyn said, well, they don't want to see you. They have problems with you. When really they had a problem with Robyn. They didn't have a problem with the kids. So the kids have been fed a lot of lies. And when they had their big fight over the text, apparently according to the show and according to what was said, they said that they had a horrible life, that everything had gone so terribly wrong. They never wanted to get married. They never wanted to have their own families. They were so hurt by how everything went. And it was basically all the other sister wives' faults and their siblings' faults for ruining their lives. So now they were promised this big family. They've lost their father, and then they've lost the siblings that they've been adopted into. Because legally speaking, those kids from the other wives are legally their siblings, but they're not being treated that way. So I've been looking at a lot of the Pinterest posts by the two of them because they do have relatively private lives, but they're on the show, right? And they're both adults. So Brianna is 20 and Aurora is 22. They are adults. They are like any other adult. And when adults have public profiles, you can look at them. They're not kids anymore. They're not minors. And I looked at a recent pin by Aurora, and this is what it said. When you are hanging on by a thread, make sure it's the hem of his garment. A recent post by Brianna said, yesterday is heavy, put it down. Another recent pin by her, Aurora, was, David didn't need to know Goliath's strength because he already knew God's. And the post is titled, When My Worldview is Too Wide. Another post she made recently in the last day, tonight I gave each of the girls a rock and a sucker, and I had them walk around the road and back with the rock in their shoe and the sucker in their mouth. You should have heard them grumbling. They couldn't walk normal because the rock was uncomfortable, and they were limping and staggering just trying to get back to me. We then came back inside and I asked them what it was like for them to walk around like that. The answer varied, but most talked about how hard it was to walk around with the rock in their shoe. Nobody mentioned how sweet the sucker was in their mouth. We often fail to realize God's blessings because we put too much focus on the struggles of our lives. It's kind of icky to think about a parent intentionally hurting a child by putting a rock in a shoe just to prove a point, but that's neither here nor there. The tone of these posts are they are overwhelmed, anxious, and not happy. And it's very clear that Aurora and Brianna are dealing with likely the fallout of what's happening in their family and the isolation that they're experiencing. And I know that there has been hurt from everyone, and I know that the kids that are not connected to Robyn are not able to reach them. I know that family, like Preston's family, is not able to reach them. And it just makes me wonder, Kody and Robyn do not believe in mental health medication or pharmaceuticals to navigate mental illness and depression and anxiety. Robyn has used therapists as a way to weaponize it against her ex-husband, and has used therapy to gain information about people. And the Browns used a family counselor, but the family counselor was not doing any sort of psychological mental health care with them. She was doing more relationship management, which is different than doing cognitive therapy to navigate trauma. Nancy was not dealing with them the root causes of trauma. She was helping them by trying to put a Band-Aid on bad behavior and then have them overcome their habits and find new ways to communicate. But she wasn't offering like mental health care. And the AUB is they're okay with that kind of therapy. They are 100% okay with helping people communicate better and do therapy that's like that, like relationship based, but they're not okay with psychological therapy where you learn about abuse and the trauma and you dive into your trauma and understand how to how to work through your trauma and work through your pain and working on steps to manage your anxiety and coping skills. They're not into that. So when you already know that one child has died by suicide and you start to see things from other kids like this and you know a show is about to come on the air, it's like watching a tiny little flame that's about to like explode. And I just wonder if any of the family, like McKelty, for instance, anyone that even has access to them could reach out to them and be like, are you okay? Is everything all right? There's a lot of conflict in this family and there's a lot of unresolved feelings. And you would have thought what happened with Garrison would have been a wake-up call for them all to sort of try to put their differences aside and understand what the big picture is, which is that, your family is your family and forgive one another. You don't have to forgive like your abusers, by the way. But if your siblings are not abusive to you and you weren't abusive to them, like if you just had disagreements, like forgiving one another for those. And I wonder, like, they all have had the same experience. They've all had to deal with Kody, right? Every single one of them. And they've all likely had dysfunctional relationships with their moms in some capacity. Imagine if they all came together and could support one another. It would be amazing. It reminds me a lot of how the Duggars cult has separated everyone from Anna, and none of them are standing up for Anna's kids to see if Anna's kids are going to be okay, right? Like, no one's advocating for Anna's kids to get proper services through CPS and to ensure that the kids have not been abused by Josh, right? Nobody's advocating for that in the family, other than like extended family, but no one immediately, like none of Josh's siblings. And then I see this again with the Brown family where you have kids making these kinds of posts where they're clearly depressed and struggling, and nobody seems to be reaching out because the narcissist has pit them all against each other and divided them. It's so sad. I hope that, and I know that the season is about to be announced because Christine and Janelle are in Los Angeles, and they announced the season of Sister Wives on July 13th, 2020. TLC does their announcements typically this specific week for the next month. They're going to be announcing what's coming up in August, and I believe Sister Wives will probably come up on the end of August like it did last year. And Christine and Janelle are in LA, which makes me feel like they're probably doing press, like, because when the seasons are announced, they generally have interviews that come out from the various outlets about what we can expect. And this season, even though it's not going to be heavily about Garrison, they're going to have to address it because it just happened. I want to be clear, like, there's no Plexus event right now in Los Angeles. There's no other reason for them to be in LA but to be doing interviews for the show. And recently Mary was like talking about how she had to like change things up and make a quick travel change. So she might also be on that tour giving interviews. So the new season is about to be announced, probably in a couple days. And wounds are going to be reopened and trauma is going to become public commentary because of what the show is, right? So as they get closer to the show, I hope people are mindful and respectful of what the kids have endured and remember that they're victims. And even if you think that those kids got something more than the other kids or whatever, they're all victims. And I hope that Aurora and Brianna know that, like, there's a way for them to get out of the situation that they're in. There's help available if they need it. They do not have to stay locked in that house with their parents forever. They don't. There is a way out. I just hope someone can reach them. So I'm sure that we'll hear soon about the new season, and I hope fans will be gentle with these girls with the season as it approaches. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, everyone.